So, you just got that brand new laptop. It's sleek, it's powerful, it's a thing of beauty. But wait a second, it's only got one or two ports. All that power, and suddenly you feel kind of stuck, right? Well, today we're gonna fix that.
Oh yeah, we've all felt it. That little bit of panic, that port anxiety when you're digging through your bag for a tangled mess of dongles. Laptops got thinner and lighter, but in the process, they lost all their connectivity. Just plugging in a monitor and a thumb drive at the same time became a real headache. But what if one single port could fix all of that?
Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we're gonna talk about how we even got into this mess. Then we'll break down the three superpowers of a good USB-C hub: power, video, and data. And to wrap it all up, we'll figure out how you can pick the absolute perfect one for you.
To really get why the hub is such a great solution, we've got to understand the problem. The whole story of how we connect our stuff is a long one, full of incredible speed boosts, but also just a lot of clutter. You know, back in '96, USB 1.0 was a total game changer. But as things got faster and faster through the 2000s, our cable drawers got messier and messier. We had that classic rectangular USB-A, then mini USB, micro USB. It felt like every new gadget came with a completely different cable. We desperately needed one connector to rule them all.
And in 2014, we finally got it: USB-C. Now, the first thing you notice is it's reversible. No more trying to plug it in, flipping it over, and flipping it back again. But the real magic is what's on the inside. It was built from the ground up to handle everything: power, video, and data, all through one tiny little port.
So let's get into that first superpower: power. Now, you might think a hub just kind of lets electricity pass through it, but it's actually way smarter than that. And figuring out how it handles energy is really the key to a stable setup.
The secret sauce here is a technology called USB power delivery, or just PD for short. Don't think of it as just electricity flowing. It's more like a smart conversation. Your phone, your laptop, and the charger all talk to each other. Your phone can ask for, say, 18 watts, while your big laptop asks for 65 watts or more, and the charger delivers exactly what's needed safely.
But here's the thing. Here's the part almost nobody tells you. The hub itself needs power to run all its own little computer chips. You can think of it like a power tax. It skims off about 10 to 15 watts for itself before it passes anything on to your laptop.
And that power tax is super important to understand. Let's say you plug your laptop's 65-watt charger into the hub. The hub takes its 15-watt cut, and now your laptop's only getting 50 watts. That might mean it charges really slowly, or if you're doing heavy work, the battery might even go down. That's why using a beefier charger like a 100-watt one is almost always the right move. It makes sure there's plenty of juice for the hub and for your laptop.
All right, power is sorted. Next up, video. How in the world does one tiny little port manage to power a giant 4K monitor? Well, it's not exactly magic, but it does depend on a specific trick that you really need to know about. It all works because of something called DisplayPort Alternate Mode, or DP Alt Mode. Basically, it lets that USB-C port speak the language of video. But, and this is a big but, just because a port is USB-C shaped doesn't mean it can do video. Your laptop's port has to specifically support DP Alt Mode. So you always have to check the specs for your device.
Now, if you're hooking up a 4K monitor, pay close attention to whether it's 30 Hz or 60 Hz. The difference is night and day, seriously. At 30 Hz, your mouse cursor feels like it's dragging through thick mud. But at 60 Hz, everything is buttery smooth and responsive. If you're doing any kind of video editing, design, or gaming, 60 Hz is not a nice to have, it's absolutely essential.
And here we go. This is maybe the single biggest point of confusion, especially for all you Mac users out there. Windows laptops have a cool technology called multi-stream transport, or MST. It lets you use one hub to extend your desktop across two different monitors. But Mac does not support it. So on a Mac, that same hub will just mirror the exact same picture on both screens. It's not a broken hub, I promise. It's just a limitation of the operating system.
Okay, we've nailed down power and video. Time for the third piece of the puzzle: data. You want your hub to be a superhighway for your files, not a rush hour traffic jam. So let's make sure you're actually getting all the speed you paid for.
Look, not everything you plug in needs to be super fast. Your keyboard and mouse, they're perfectly happy in the slow lane like a USB 2.0 port. But that screaming fast external SSD you just bought, it needs the fastest lane you can give it to really show off what it can do. It's all about matching the right gear to the right port to avoid any slowdowns. And trust me, the speed difference here is huge. A 10 gigabit per second port can move your files literally twice as fast as a 5 gigabit port. Now, if you're a photographer or a video editor moving massive files around, that's not just a small difference. That can mean saving hours and hours of just sitting there waiting for a progress bar to finish. But here is the most important thing to remember about data. Your entire setup is a chain. You could have the fastest SSD money can buy, but if you plug it into a slow port on your hub, or you use a cheap cable that can't handle the speed, then your performance is going to be dragged down by that one weak link. Everything has to be up to the task. All right, you get the tech. You understand how it all works. Now for the really fun part, picking the right hub for you. Because the best hub is all about what you do day in and day out. So let's look at 3 typical people.
First up, the student. You're always on the move, so portability and the basics are what matter. A small, simple 5-in-1 hub that you can just toss in your backpack is perfect. Make sure it has an SD card reader for your camera and a couple of those classic USB-A ports for thumb drives and older accessories. Then there's the remote professional. You need a reliable workhorse that can handle anything. Look for a slightly bigger hub, maybe a 7-in-1, that has an Ethernet port, because you know that coffee shop Wi-Fi is not always going to cut it. And of course, a solid HDMI port for plugging into a big monitor at your home office is a must. And finally, the creative pro, the video editor, the designer, the photographer. For you, it's all about raw performance. You can't afford bottlenecks. You need those 10 gigabit per second data ports for your SSDs. You need that smooth as silk 4K at 60 Hz video. And hey, if you're on a Windows machine, that dual display support is an absolute game changer for your workflow. Because when you think about it, the right hub is so much more than just another gadget. It's the thing that unlocks what your device was always capable of. It gives you the freedom to create what you want and the flexibility to work wherever you want. So you can finally stop juggling all those different adapters and just transform that super thin laptop into a full-on productivity machine. And it all boils down to that one single satisfying click of a cable. So just remember this, a hub isn't just a collection of ports. It's the key. It's the bridge that connects your amazing technology to everything else in the real world. Once you really understand its power, its video, and its data capabilities, that's when you unlock what your gear can truly do. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As our devices get even more powerful, what's that single port of the future going to be able to do?